Hello, screenwriters. Welcome back to another episode of Five Questions with a Screenwriter. And the screenwriter I have with me today is Tim Westland. Hello, Tim.
Howdy, howdy.
Thank you so much for coming on the show to talk screenwriting.
Sure.
All right, so question number one. What are three screenplays every new screenwriter should read?
Oh my gosh, three screen plays. There's only 3 zillion that you should read. Um, I think the one that can get you started as a new screenwriter to understand how you can write something super effectively and communicate a lot with a few words would be Alien, the first film. Patrick, I don't know if you've read that script, but it's extraordinarily lean and it just doesn't stop, sort of like the alien itself. It is here, it is there, it is everywhere, it's all around you. And it's so tightly written that it's almost over before you began. And it really can teach a new writer how to keep from writing like a novelist, someone who writes a book with flowery descriptions. It can really teach you word economy. Another is Juno. Um, Diablo Cody is a master at dialogue, at emotion, at tapping into what her characters would feel, not what, as a writer, she might feel. And everything seems completely authentic. Um, and then probably Fleabag. To me, Phoebe Waller-Bridge can do no wrong. She makes choices for her characters. Actually, that's not even right. I think the characters, once she's started on them, make their choices, and she allows that to happen. And again, her writing is descriptive and lean and um, dialogue based, emotion based. She takes things where if she presents something that's humorous 1 second, then she's gonna punch you in the face or the character in the face the next. And there's a lot to learn from those three screenplays, and of course Chinatown.
Yes, the Chinatown, the screenplay that comes up in every book, it feels like this.
That's why I
Oh,
said it. Yeah, most people these days probably haven't seen them unless you're old like me. But um, it's if you take the kind of age thing away, how it was made so long ago, it's great storytelling.
I have to say, out of the three you mentioned, I've read like two out of those three. So I read Aliens and I read Juno. I haven't read Fleabag yet, so I have to
Yeah.
put that on my list. All right. Let's get into question number two. What is
Okay.
something a screenwriter will never learn in a book?
I think honestly, based on what I've seen over the years, I think it's how to embrace and deal with critique. Not just feedback, but when people come back and they say something that doesn't sit well with how the screenwriter views their screenplay. Um, First of all, all critique is good, even if it's bad critique, even if what they're saying doesn't make any sense. Everything says something about what you've written. In other words, if somebody comes at you and says, I didn't like X, Y, and Z, and you're looking at your screenplay and you say, I didn't even write X, Y, and Z, they may be thinking of another script. They may not have been engaged by your script. They may have gotten something totally different than what you sent to them in terms of what you're trying to communicate. Did you connect with them? You may not have, right? Um, if they come up with structural issues, most screenwriters don't want to hear that because then you've got a big problem to solve. Regardless of what the negative critique or the constructive criticism is, um, too many people feel it as a personal attack when really critique often is just one person's interpretation. Um, you should just embrace it. Doesn't mean you have to take their advice on something because your story is your story, right? You ultimately have to be happy with what you presented as a reflection of you, your skill, your storytelling skills, and not to go, oh, I'm a terrible writer or this guy's an idiot for saying that. No, it's just one person. Now, if you have 5 people or 10 people that read your stuff and they all say the same thing, then you should start thinking about it. But ultimately, regardless of what they say, even the good stuff, you should take everything with a grain of salt. Think about what they've said, see if it feels right, and then mull it over. But growing a thick skin is hard, and the only way you do that is by sending your stuff out, getting it read, getting it back, and incorporating that into your head and maybe into your screenplay. And books can tell you, oh, you know, people will not like your stuff, but Hollywood really is going to be hard. So you really need to learn how to take a few hits along the way and incorporate possible changes. So
Yeah, no, that's so true. I read a lot of screenwriting books, and I never I read about structure, character development, and so on. But yeah, the books don't tell you how to deal with critique. And well said, you have to grow thick skin, because if you could deal with it now, then and because Hollywood's not going to hold anything back. So it's great advice about
absolutely,
that. Question number 3: What is the greatest character arc you've seen in a story?
that's easy for me. It's in Gran Torino, Clint Eastwood's film where he plays Walt Kaz was it Kowalski, Walt Kowalski. The beginning of the film, he's a Korean war vet. He's angry. He's racist. He hates everybody and everything. He doesn't like the fact that his once lily white town, or sorry, lily white neighborhood has become integrated. And I mean, he doesn't even like his own family, and his family doesn't like him. And you're thinking, this is a completely irredeemable character. He is just a terrible human. And he's thrown into a situation where he's forced to deal with his neighbors for the first time. And just so slowly and smoothly throughout the film, he comes to know these people for the human beings that they are. They're not wonderful. They're not bad. They're just they're just people, and everybody. We're all just people. And soon he finds that these people, for no reason, care about him probably more than his family does. And over the course of the film, he goes from being this terrible racist to a guy who gives his life. Sorry for spoilers, but gives his life to save these two neighbors of his, these two teen characters, because he knows that if he doesn't do this, their lives are going to be destroyed. And I mean, it. I've watched that film so many times, and you try to detect where they make tonal shifts, and you just can't. Everything is perfectly natural. So, I mean, is it the best film in the world? No. I mean, they could have gotten some better teen actors. The girl is fine. The kid wasn't as good as I like him, but um, they could have spent a little bit more money on a couple of things. That doesn't take away from the writing and Clint Eastwood's acting, because he had to also, along with the script, he had to make that shift seem fluid and natural. And anytime anybody thinks about character arcs, I think of that one.
I know I've seen it. I haven't seen it in a while though. Did it win something at the Oscars, or if I'm not mistaken?
Uh,
I
I
think
can't
it might have
remember.
won something. I can't remember exactly what.
It should have. They should introduce smoothest character arc awards, and he would have won for sure.
All right. Question number 4: What was the first screenplay you wrote, and what was that writing process like?
The first screenplay I wrote. Well, there were short screenplays, which is what I got into first. I was part of a website called Movie Poet, which has gone defunct. The owner of it created a film school of his own, and so he didn't have time. But where basically every month they had a 5-page screenplay contest. The only way that you could take part in the contest is if you reviewed contest entrants from the previous month. And so you had to learn how to review scripts, read review, and give feedback, valuable feedback. And then you could enter, and everything had to be a complete story, and it was about a theme for that month. Um, that taught me word economy, visual, impactful writing, how to structure things. Because if you can tell a whole story in 5 pages, you're good. Once I'd gotten through that and really felt I understood what I was doing, that's when I went to screenwriting. And my first screenplay was actually an adaptation of a book that I had read, a Harry Turtledove book, um, and it was sci-fi. And I didn't get the rights to it. I just wanted to challenge myself to see if I could adapt a book, which I did. Which completing a screenplay is job one. It doesn't matter if you're a good writer, a bad writer, or any other writer. If you don't complete a screenplay, then what good is a screenplay? You got to get it done. Now, would I say that that's my best work? I'd say it was my first work. It's not my best work. Um, it was. interesting. It was harder than I thought, although subsequent adaptations after this, I learned a lot from this to adaptation and went from there. But yeah, my first was that one.
This is our final question. Okay.
Sure.
You get to plan and go on a non-romantic date with your current main character. What
Oh
does
my
that
God.
date look like?
Well, I don't think my wife would like it too much. Uh,
Non-romantic. That's the key. Non-romantic.
well, um, my main character is a lot smarter than me. Um, she's Irish and fiery, and she takes no shit from anybody. So I specialize in giving people a little bit of shit, so she might not take that too well. Um, and she might have a little bit of magic in her veins, so it's hard to tell where that's going to go. Um, I'm that kind of guy that, even though I'm talking a lot right now, I tend to be the guy who listens. So I'd probably be taking an earful and taking notes. Um, and you know, hell, I started dating my wife when I was 17. What is dating? I don't know what happens on dates, but I'd basically be sitting there trying to find out all about her. And since she is one of my characters, I'd let that inform how I wrote her.
This has been 5 questions with Tim Westland. Tim, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. I'm curious, are you
Sure.
currently writing anything at the moment?
I'm probably writing five things. One thing I just discovered early on is that whatever you're writing on, if it keeps you writing, do it. Right? It doesn't matter if you're flipping back and forth. You do have to learn how to finish a project, but I've got, 15 or 20 feature screenplays and I've got several pilots that I've written. Um, I like I like to switch around based on my feelings. It keeps me writing, so it's okay.
The last thing I wanted to know is what's a recent TV show or film that you've watched you would recommend to our viewers?
Oh, you threw me a curveball. You threw me a curveball. I've been watching actually a lot of TV lately. Um, And for those of you that haven't watched, and this isn't new, it's old, if you haven't watched MASH, it's from the early 70s. It's one of the, if not the best viewed television series of all time. 11 seasons, takes place in the Korean War. It's a comedy based on the film. And if you write humor, you'll learn a lot from this. There's a lot of slapstick there, but there's also a lot of serious themes in it and how they can meld humor and drama. uh, it's just amazing, and it's just a fantastic show. So young people don't often go back and look at the old stuff, especially television shows. But there's 11 seasons of 23, I think 22 or 23 episodes per season of show that you can learn from, and you don't get that anymore. You get one season and then your favorite show goes away. Killing Eve is also very good. That's a recent show, 4 seasons, and they take a lot of chances and do a lot of fun stuff with their characters, and I really enjoyed that too.
All right, Tim, thank you so much for the recommendation. And I
Sure.
really appreciate you coming on board and talking screenwriting. Hopefully, some new screenwriters out there could find this information very useful.
If there's anything I want to promote, the site, the Stunt List. This doesn't really benefit me, even though I'm on it. It's really about promoting the people who are trying to help other writers get seen, get representation. Basically, they're writers on the verge who have finished product that they feel is worthy to be highlighted. And they have several different lists. Anybody can submit to them as long as they're polished and they're complete. The stunt list is exactly what it sounds like, a stunt script. I did a Big Trouble from in Little China sequel. My Aliens thing is a stunt list, right? My Alien script. They have the gray list for writers over 40. They have the Originals Bureau, which is original material. Um, but the goal for these people, the team on that site, is to promote writers who are ready to go.
I'll make sure to leave the link for the stunt list in the description below. Thanks, Tim.
That was my pleasure. Thanks so much. And keep writing, everybody.